This is a story of a young beautiful woman married to two men at the same time in a village called Elele. Listen to the story of how she ended up with two men who loved her so much. Once upon a time, in a lovely village called Elele, there were tall green hills all around. The land in Elele was very fertile, which made it perfect for growing delicious fruits and vegetables. The villagers loved their home and worked hard to make it a wonderful place. Every morning, the sun will rise over the hills and the villagers would wake up early. They would tend to their gardens, planting yams, tomatoes, and fresh greens. The air smelled fresh and earthy, and the sounds of the birds singing filled the village. In Elele, there lived a pretty young woman named Neka. Neka had a special friend named Uche. They loved each other very much. Neka was a farmer. She grew yummy fruits and vegetables. Uche was a palm wine tapper. He climbed palm wine trees to extract sweet juice that he sold to people in the village. Many handsome suitors came to ask Neka to marry them because she was so beautiful, but Neka only wanted to be with Uche. She loved him with all her heart. One day, Neka and Uche got married. They were so happy. They lived in Uche's house, which she got from his father. Uche worked hard to tap palm wine, and when he had time, he helped Neka on her farm. They had each other fresh fruits and sweet palm wine. Neka and Uche smiled every day, feeling content and grateful for what they had. Neka and Uche had two children together. One morning, armed with his trusty machete and woven basket, Uche set out to find the perfect palm tree. After a few hours of wandering, he spotted a majestic palm swinging gently in the breeze, its trunk glistening in the sunlight. Excitedly, he began to climb, eager to collect the sweet sap that would soon ferment into the village's beloved palm wine. However, as he reached for a particular high fern, his foot slipped. Uche lost his grip and fell to the forest floor, the wall around him fading to black. A hunter named Efe, passing through the woods, stumbled upon Uche's lifeless body. Efe carried Uche to his home, a small hut nestled on the outskirts of his village. Efe and his family nursed Uche back to health, tending to his wounds with herbal remedies. When Uche finally woke up, he looked around, bewildered. He had no memory of who he was or where he came from. With no memory of his past, Uche stayed with Efe and his family. He learned to tap palm wine again, this time to sell in the village where he now lived. Though he couldn't remember his own name, his hands knew the work well. He became part of Efe's household, contributing to the family's livelihood. They called him Obina, meaning father's heart, as he was now like a brother to Efe. Neka was at home expecting Uche to return with the sweetest palm wine. As the sun dipped below the horizon and darkness enveloped the village, Neka began to worry. The shadows danced around her, but there was still no sign of Uche. She waited, her heart heavy with an unshakable feeling of dread. When night fell, Neka could no longer bear it. She grabbed a lantern and set out to search for him, calling his name into the thickening gloom. The village was quiet, the only sounds being the rustling leaves and the distant croaking of frogs. She retraced Uche's steps, moving deeper into the bush her heart racing. Hours passed, and the stars twinkled overhead, but Nneka found no trace of her beloved. She returned home, her heart aching with fear and confusion. In the days that followed, she gathered a group of villagers to help in the search. They combed the forest, asking everyone they met if they had seen Uche. But they only responded that they had not seen him. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and months into years, and Nneka's hope began to wane. Each morning, she would wake up with the sun, looking out at the path Uche used to take, her heart aching for the laughter that once filled their home. The villagers comforted her, sharing stories of Uche's kindness and his laughter, but none could bring back what she had lost. Neka sat on the veranda of her small house, the sun casting long shadows over her weary face. Her eyes, once full of hope, now carried the weight of despair. It had been 6 years since her husband Uche had gone out to tap palm wine and never returned. Life had become a struggle she never anticipated. Each day was a battle to feed her children, a constant reminder of the empty place at her table. Despite her hardships, Nneka's beauty remained untouched. Her luminous skin and gentle eyes made her the talk of the village. Suitors came from far and wide, hoping to take Uche's place, but she turned them all away. Her heart still clung to the hope that Uche would one day come home. She couldn't bear the thought of moving on while there was still a glimmer of possibility, no matter how faint. One morning, as Nneka made her way to her farm, a basket balanced on her head, she met a man she had only seen a distance, Uzima. He was a widower, a man who had lost his wife 5 years ago during childbirth. Since then, Uzima had been alone, raising a son with a quiet sadness in his eyes. He had never found it in himself to marry again, the memory of his late wife still too fresh, too painful. But the moment Uzima saw Nneka, something shifted in him. Her beauty captivated him. Yes, but it was her strength, the resilience in her strides, that truly caught his heart. He felt a warmth he hadn't known in years, and he knew he could not let this opportunity slip away. Uzima began to find small ways to help Nneka. He would bring firewood to her doorstep, offer her yams from his farm, and even play with her children, making them laugh in ways that they had forgotten. At first, Nneka was weary of his kindness. She told Uzima plainly that she could not marry him and he should not expect anything in return for his good deeds. Her loyalty to Uche, despite the years of absence, was unshakable. But Uzima was not deterred. He continued to be there for her, never asking for anything in return. He saw how tired she was, how much she carried on her slender shoulders, and he wanted nothing more than to ease her burden. Slowly, Nneka began to soften. She could see that Uzima's kindness was genuine, and he asked for nothing but her happiness. 6 long years passed since Uche's disappearance, and Nneka's hope began to fade. The whispers in the village grew louder. People said that Uche must be dead. Nneka finally accepted the reality that her husband was gone and was never coming back. With a heavy heart, she allowed herself to see the future that Uzima had been offering her all along. Their marriage was simple but beautiful, a celebration of two souls who had found solace in each other. However, Nneka made one thing clear. She would not leave Uche's house. It was where her memories of him lived, where her children had been raised. Uzima, understanding her reasons, agreed without hesitation. He and his young son moved into Nneka's house, blending their lives into one. Not long after their marriage, Neka discovered she was expecting a child. When the baby was born, it was a baby boy. Uzodima's joy knew no bound. He held the son in his arms, tears in his eyes, grateful for the love he had found in a place he never expected. Though life had taken many turns, Nneka's heart finally found peace. She had lived through the pain of loss and the struggle of survival, and now she stood with a new family by her side. She never forgot Uche, but in Uzodima, she found a love that was steady, kind, and true. A love that had waited patiently through the years to find her. When it was close to 1 year after their son's birth, Uzodima decided to throw a small birthday celebration for the boy. He wanted to get the best palm wine for the occasion, but the supply in their village was not enough. So Uzodima and Neka decided to travel to the two villages away where they heard they could find more palm wine. As they arrived in the village, they were directed to the house of Efe, the hunter who was known to have the best palm wine in the area. When they reached Efe's house, Uche, now called Obinna, was outside tending to the palm wine jars. The moment his eyes met Neka, something flickered in his mind. Memories began to rush back. His children's laughter, Neka's smiles, their life together before the fall. Neka stood frozen. A breath caught in her throat. She recognized him instantly. Uche, she whispered, tears welling up in her eyes. It was like seeing a ghost. The man she thought was lost forever was standing right in front of her. As Uche regained his memories, he was overwhelmed with joy and sorrow all at once. But when Neka introduced Uzodima as her husband, his joy turned to anger. "You remarried?" he said, his voice shaking. "You didn't wait for me." Neka's heart broke at the pain in his voice. "Uche, we thought you were dead," she explained, her voice trembling. "I waited for you. I searched for you, but you never came back. I had to think of our children, of their future. Uzodima was there for us when we had no one." Uche listened, his anger slowly melting into understanding. He realized how much time has passed, how much Neka has suffered in his absence. He saw the truth in her words and the kindness in Uzodima's eyes. Though his heart ached, he knew that life had moved on while he was lost in the fog of his forgotten past. Neka reached out and touched his hand, tears streaming down her face. "I never stopped loving you, Uche, but Uzodima is a good man. He has been a rock when we had nothing. Please understand." Uche looked at Neka, then at Uzodima, and finally back at Neka. He nodded slowly. The pain still ached in his face, but acceptance growing in his heart. "I understand," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "You did what you had to do." At that moment, the three of them knew that their lives had changed forever. They stood together, not as enemies or rivals, but as people bound by the twist of fate and the power of love. Uche returned to his house, his heart aching with the knowledge that things could never be the same, was not willing to let go of his wife to Uzodima. Uzodima, who had given his all to Neka during Uche's absence, was not willing to leave her side. Uzodima rented a house very close to Uche's house and packed into it. Neka herself refused to let go of either man, knowing that both had been a crucial part of her life. Neka, torn between the two men who both held pieces of her heart, made a bold decision. She decided she would remain married to both Uche and Uzodima, splitting her time and her love between them. She played her role as a wife and mother in both homes, caring for Uche and Uzima as best as she could. In their community, Nneka's decision caused quite a stir. No woman had ever been married to two husbands at the same time. People laughed at them, gossiping and pointing fingers. But Nneka stood firm. She loved both men and would not be forced to choose between them. Over time, as the villagers saw the love and unity in her unconventional family, they began to accept and respect their decision. A year after Uche's return, Nneka gave birth to another child. The question of the child's paternity was a mystery even to her, as both men had parts of her life. But Uche and Uzima, who had already accepted their unique situation, embraced the child as their own. They joined hands in raising their children, both old and new, treating them all with equal love and care. Uche and Uzima, though rivals at first, eventually found a brotherhood in their shared love for Nneka and their commitment to the family they built together. They worked together to provide for their wife and children, putting aside their differences for the sake of the people they loved. Nneka's story became one of courage and love in the face of society's judgment. She broke the norm of her time, choosing to honor the bonds of love that fate had forged between her, Uche, and Uzima. And in doing so, she created a home that was filled with love, understanding, and unity. A home where she was not just a wife or mother, but a woman who loved deeply and was loved in return. Thank you for watching my story. Kindly like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more stories. Bye.